into, you said that you're a fan, but Dan, like, what got you into fighting? Like, what was the reason?
I don't know, man. Like, I've never considered myself a violent or controversial or, any type of, I always try to avoid those things. I would consider myself aggro, but I definitely had something inside me since a little kid. I just loved throwing punches and kicks. And it's the movies I gravitated towards. It's what I would do by myself. If I had action figures, I would make. It was all about fighting. I don't know what it was, And so I just did the whole thing like everybody else did in the early 90s, I got into Taekwondo and I don't, I achieved a quote-unquote black belt, but I don't really consider that a black belt because I was before 18 when I got it, and I'm kind of a big stickler when it comes to that. But for what it's worth, it was a great gateway martial art, and for what it's worth, I did like compete on the national level. Like my mom would drive me places around the West Coast and stuff, and like I really got into it for what it's worth. But eventually I was like, it's only kicks. Oh, I don't learn to use hands, and I got like, you do more like traditional like Kempo karate or Kung Fu, and I found just Chinese Kempo karate, and I did that for, from high school on, and ended up teaching that at a high school. I got my black belt in that, and I will give myself a little more credit for that black belt,
I guess. There you go, yeah.
It allowed me to go train in China. I didn't meet Dan Hardy, but I was actually out in the Shaolin Temple the same summer he was in 2000 or 2002. I forget which one he was out. I was out there for both those summers.
I think it was 2002.
Yeah, and I gotta talk to Dan about that, ask him about that. But like, it was, so again, start nerding out here, but always loved the martial arts, and then, took a little bit of break, in the early 20s and got in a van, traveled and did a punk rock band thing for a while. That was really fun, but I had that itch and I had to get back into it. And I had a friend that trained, I don't know if it was One Kick Nicks or Master Toddy's, I think it was, and he was one of his guys. And I just started training with him out of his garage, getting into Muay Thai just to get back into things, and started getting back into MMA. I was always aware of it, the dark ages, but it was one of those things where I was at the age where in the 90s where it was like, they don't know, you have to stick to this martial art, our martial art, and everybody was kind of, it was business, they were puffing their chest, so it took me a while to get over to it, but once I got into grappling and stuff, man, fell in love. Had a friend that, signed up at Extreme Couture when it first opened out here in 2006. I signed up shortly after, and yeah, man, was just training, having fun, like listening to a MMAJunkie radio show that I would later be on. I met you through there as well. Having you on the show, you've co-hosted a few times there.
Yes.
So it all kind of happened naturally, but how I ended up on the media side was actually by accident. It was actually an injury, concussion. I was training for my second amateur fight. The first one, it left a bad taste in my mouth. I lost a 3-round decision to Marvin Eastman's son, and I was like, I want to. Again, I had no disillusions. I've never been an athlete. Even when I was competing as an amateur, I knew I was never going to be a pro. I'm not. I don't have that talent. I didn't have that. It wasn't a goal of mine. But like I've competed in almost like minus wrestling, from grappling gi, no gi, kickboxing, taekwondo, amateur boxing. Like I've competed and at least I've gotten a win, whether it be exhibition or amateur, in almost everything except MMA.
Yeah. So
I'm like, I'm turning 30. I'm like, I gotta get this monkey off my back. I gotta get back in there. And I was in training camp. I probably had concussions before, but I've never really been knocked out. I've had that proverbial, again, for stereotyping races, I've got the Hawaiian shin, right?
Yeah.
And I've always was just like, I can take shots, and it was a point of pride before all this, science kind of comes out.
Yeah. All that extra stuff.
And was just in a training, and I was getting better at the training. It was like I think we would do 7 3-minute rounds, 5 to 7 3-minute rounds for essentially 3 3-minute round fights when you're amateurs, right? Train with the amateur team. And I ended the round on top, and I took a shot from the bottom. People punching off their back doesn't have a lot of leverage. I think I might have taken a shot earlier in the rounds, you just don't remember.
Yeah.
But something just felt wrong, and long story short, I had a concussion. I had what I've been reading about, the dizzy symptoms, everything. And then I got post-concussion symptoms really bad. So like,
was this self-diagnosis? You went on like the...
No, I got actual diagnosis here, and like from Select Physical Therapy, Jeremy Haas, Dr. Jeremy Haas. He was a practitioner. I forget. There's only 2 people legally allowed to diagnose concussions in the state of Nevada. Yeah. At least not 2 people, but 2 job titles, and he was one of them. So I actually got the legal prescription. And I say that because it was important, because I wasn't able to drive, and I was having trouble doing my corporate job. I used to have a corporate gig at Whole Foods. I would run their accounts in the day. So I go in the morning, I get all the deposits, balance all the registers, and get it ready for the bank. And that was just it was a cush job. But unfortunately, I had to deal with a lot of screens and whatnot, and I couldn't even drive. Like, it was really bad. That's why I actually wear these glasses, not to look cool, but like, thank you. I had great vision. I had great vision before the concussion, but sometimes it can affect your vision, and I got that. Long story, but it would actually suck because it's such a new science, as you know, that we don't really have the science for these things, and unfortunately, our laws and certain things kind of go on that too. So even though like I was like the dude who never missed a day at work, like I great, great attendance and whatnot, and I had insurance, and not only did that, I was competing, so I actually would pay extra insurance because I'm like, dude, what if I break my arm doing like a training for a Naga or something, and I need my job to survive, so I actually paid extra in case something happened. But with head trauma not being, so new, it actually wasn't even covered, and I had to fight, and I ended up losing like my job. And like it was really bad, like because I'm a person who's like really I take pride in doing a good job.
Yeah.
And it also sucked because people like who were I thought your friends or this or that, well, I thought I was making excuses because they see something. If you fighters go through the same thing. If you're going through something with your head, people will be like, "What? You're Julian Martin. You're a middleweight UFC fighter. You're a young man." Even if they don't know about UFC, they see a young strapping man. Like they're not going to be that sympathetic if you're like, "Oh, I feel dizzy." So like people were actually looking at me like I was making excuses. I had to move back in at home like when I was 30, and I was living on my own since I was like 19. Like it was the lowest of lows. Like I lost my health. I could barely drive. And a coach of mine, rest in peace, Robert Follis, was like, "Dude, he knew that I used to teach a beginner's class at Extreme Couture back when Neil Melanson was teaching there, and I experienced writing and articulating. He's like, dude, you could break down fights really well. Why don't you do something to keep yourself busy?" Because he knew I was going crazy because I couldn't be on the mats. And I gained a bunch of weight that I was still trying to lose. And he was like, "You do just break things down and start a website, start breaking fights down. Next thing you know, it starts gaining attention." I get a job at shouts to MMA Latest at first over the UK. Ended up getting a job later at Flow Combat. Shout out to them, still around as well. And eventually made myself over to MMAJunkie, where like I started following the sport. It used to be my homepage back in like 2006. And so it's this crazy, I'm sorry if I'm rambling here, but it's crazy full circle from like, going through these crazy lows and these crazy health problems. So like all your past experiences from whether from martial arts or even as a kid in the 90s, like before the internet, I was a big Bulls fan, and I used to write stats because I was a big Pippen fan. I'd be like, Jordan's overrated, they're padding his stats. I would take my own stats as a kid. I'd wait for the fucking paper the next day, and I would cut out stats and compare and get pissed off because I'm like, they're doing it all wrong. And like just, and this was like a little kid, so it's just kind of funny now. All this comes full circle and was able to turn a really negative situation around with seeds that, unbeknownst to me, I had planted the whole time.
That's insane, man. I never would have guessed. And what's crazy is I train with Marvin Eastman. He's one of my coaches.
Yeah.
So I train with
here. Yeah.
Little Marv. I trained with him, and I didn't know that you two fought. I knew that you
had his first amateur fight. Yeah. The first fight.
So you had all this stuff from training in Thai, training in jiu-jitsu. You had Robert Follis, one of the best coaches, argumentatively, that was here in Vegas, that could put everything together, that could talk to you. And I mean, he helped guide you into what your passion was. I mean, you said here that you didn't know that you wanted to go to be a pro. You didn't believe that you were an athlete, but you wanted to stick with it. And you're sitting on the desk. Your breakdowns are phenomenal when it comes to fights. Your knowledge for these fighters go super far in depth. I mean, you do your research. Every time I'm on the MMAJunkie, co-hosting, it's always been a fun time. We always give good laughs.
It's a good time.
But I love the conversations that we have, that when it comes down to fighter breakdowns, I love your perspective. I love how you are able to show that actual, like, your knowledge through training and actually be able to correlate that to the fighter and know their type of knowledge. You've been through the ringer. But, dude, that is probably the craziest thing. I did not...
Small world, right?
Yeah, I did not know that was a full cycle. But then you end up getting concussion, man.
Yeah.
What's crazy is that back in the day, like, we're talking, it's 10 years.
Yeah.
We're talking about 10 years. Like 2008, 2009, that's whenever you see these fighters come in there. They're fighting with concussions. They're fighting with injuries. They're barely getting paid. And people would look at you like, like if you had a concussion or if you had some sort of like body ache, it's like having the flu, and why are you complaining?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have anything, we'd look at you again. But nowadays, if you say you have any type of the symptoms, you feel something's off, like your job, the people around you are always more supportive. They're always more understanding. And it's just crazy to hear how people would just brush you off when you have a concussion.
Yeah.
Where you're losing vision, where you're losing, you're losing your job because you can't be able to focus correctly.
It was one of the more painful lessons, but one that, and not, the sad part is I didn't need it. I already had respect just from doing, getting in there and doing it. But seeing what you guys risk and seeing how it just takes one shot can alter, your life. I gotta get my glasses changed every year because my degeneration, it goes down. It goes a little faster than a normal degenerating eye, or like little things like that. But you know what? It's good because it's like a constant reminder of how kind of fragile not just life is, but the sport that I cover. And I think my colleagues and the media's gotten better, so I'm not trying to throw a cast shade, any of that. But I don't like when I see kind of snarky or anything like that written, and that was part of the reason why I wanted to get into breaking down, because I'm like, no one's really breaking this down from a martial artist perspective, And even I'm glad we're seeing more fighters like yourself do it, because even fighters, like, they have so much to offer, but not a lot of them either can or want to really get out there. So it's really nice when you guys offer your insight. I mean, there were a couple of points in the breakdown like, I didn't even think about that. I'm like, you're right. Yeah, you guys got to think about that. And So that's a huge compliment coming from you, Julian. I appreciate that, man. And I guess that's just my goal. I'm not an ego really driven guy. So and this isn't an industry where you're gonna make a ton of money. But something like Jim Miller was being asked, like, no one really gives you crap, Jim Miller. Like, has a fighter ever gotten your opponent? And Jim Miller's a real humble guy, but he was like, you could tell he was really proud. And he should be. He's like, something means a lot to me in my career. He goes, I get a lot of respect from my peers, and that means a lot. And you don't really think about that, but I appreciate people who are wired like that, because to me that means so much more. If I can, get respect from, whether it's a colleague who's been writing more than me, which most of them have. I'm such a noob to that, or a professional fighter. Like, I'm like, wow, that's big to me. So thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome, man. I mean, you have the job, you have the voice, you have the mind for it, and you've had practice over the years. You wouldn't be in the position you are now if you weren't good at what you do, and it would be amazing to hear you on podcasts, having your own breakdowns, having your own stuff, building it up, as well as MMAJunkie. I love when you're there. Actually, last week we were at Contender Series. He's sitting on the other side of the cage, and we're texting back and forth. We're texting back and forth on bets. I'm like, yeah, this is this. I'm like, okay, we're texting, just sitting there trying to figure out what's gonna happen, which.
Speaking of underdog.
Jeez. Oh my God. I'm over there. I went in on a bet, and I win. I don't ever bet more than $10.
Smart.
I don't. And I do parlays, I do crazy stuff. Again, that's just like going out to eat. Instead of doing that, I just put it on a bet, and I only bet fights. I don't bet anything else. I don't have any knowledge of anything else.
Same here. Yeah, I'm the same way. Yeah.
So we'll play on that, and then we had this fight come up, and you saw it. The kid that I had all my money on was winning the entire fight, looked amazing, and in 4 minutes and 36 seconds into the 5th round, the opponent, the underdog, jumped up, threw a crazy flying knee, landed, our guy fell, and immediately I texted him, well, ouch.
Yeah. Even the non-biased media people I was sitting next to, like, it was like you would have thought we all had a bet on the guy, because you just felt like that whole feeling, like everyone's stomach drop out, that feeling where you're just like, what just happened? Even if you were rooting for the other guy, because it just came out of nowhere.
Oh, it was out of nowhere. But that's the best part about fights.
Yeah.
So all of our picks that we have here are stylistically, we're just picking them based upon their track record, their style matchups, their compatibility when they're in the octagon, their mindset, how they perform. This is what we're going off of.
Yeah.
But anything can happen in there.
Yeah, I think we picked outside the main, we picked all favorites, and outside of the main event, to our credit, they are slight favorites. I mean, these are competitive matchups. But yeah, we did go with all favorites, but like what Julian said, does that mean we're confident they're all going to win? Hell no.
We're just giving an opinion.
Yeah.
Based upon our background, and this is it's crazy how MMA goes by it. But I have a question for you, and this is going to be our question of stirring the pot. That's what I'm going to call it. It's a new segment.
All right.
Give me your take on Colby Covington.
Man, this is going to be hard for me to stir the pot on. I went on one of my first projects, like when I was at MMAJunkie Radio in 2017, we went on a military trip. They do quite a few of them.
Yeah.
And they get fighters together, and it's usually a different crop each time. When we went, it was Misha Tate, Paul Felder, and Colby Covington. And it was crazy because he didn't really start a shtick yet. This was he was campaigning for the Damian Maia fight. It wasn't the Damian Maia fight until Colby kind of turned it on to the Colby we all know.
Yeah.
And it was just, we were just laughing because I would never throw anyone under the bus, but we were having some good times on that trip, okay?
Yeah.
There were some good times being had. And granted, Colby Covington was kind of in a camp/pre-camp. I don't know if the Maia fight was announced, so he was like doing his runs, like working on with the military, like he was just really like working hard. And then when we were having kicking back, we were laughing because at one point, just a bunch of chaotic shit happened. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Secret stay safe here. We're not throwing anyone under the bus. But at one point of the night, we just look over and we go, isn't it funny that the guy nicknamed Chaos is the most calmest, polite dude in the room right now?
Yeah, that's
And it's funny, you might hear certain media people crack like this isn't how he really is. And I'm not saying that makes anything all right. I'm not saying that it means you should like him. You don't have to like him. I could care less. But I will say for what it's worth, just because I have had many interactions with him off camera, and that's how I got to know him. It's hilarious because he's such a nice, respectful dude. And I'm not saying that makes it okay, but if anything, what makes it kind of suck, it doesn't offend me. I'm not a political guy. I'm not trying to get political. But if I wasn't a politics, it probably wouldn't be on the same side as his gimmick. I guess we can just leave it at that.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't get offended about anything. And even the things were like, ooh, that might have been crossing the line. That probably was crossing the line. My thing is I actually feel more bad for him because I know that he's this nice guy and this kind of a gimmick. Whether you pull it off, you do it right, or you do it wrong, either way, it's kind of volatile and polarizing, and you're gonna have to live with that and everything that comes with it. Whether it's booze, having shit thrown at you, even when you stop doing the gimmick, and he's recently been hinting, about going over to the WWE, and I don't disagree. In fact, that's something he shared with me personally, like last year. And so he actually, I think his fighting career, I'll just say, could be shorter than people expect, which is maybe good if you don't like Colby Covington, but I almost feel bad for him because this shtick that he had to use to get to this point, I don't think that just turns off, man, even if he does stop fighting and goes and does something else.
I think he's intelligent. Look, we're talking about you're in the welterweight division. We're talking about you have 15 minutes of fame to mark your name and put it in the lights.
Yeah.
And you're going against guys like Ben Askren, who at the time was an undefeated fighter. You're going against guys like Kamaru Usman, who's on this long trail, Leon Edwards, Jorge Masvidal, Damian Maia, Rafael dos Anjos, Ponzinibbio. Like, I'm just listing names that you have to create a gimmick. You have to create something to stand out. And he's on this terror that he's going through, and no one's knowing his name. So he comes in and he probably does it whichever way you want to say, wrong, right. What's the difference? As long as it's working for him, everyone tunes in for this guy because they want him to lose. So he is now a money fight.
Yeah.
He is the money fight. He is a different version of the Conor McGregor. Conor came in and he was very witty. He was off the dome. He created his own conversations. He said things that were iconic, and he was able to build a fight where if you don't have that, you see fighters trying to be able to talk like they're Conor McGregor, call these fights, be Mr. Macho Man. But Colby Covington has done something intelligent. He has now stood out among the rest. He has set himself up to go to the WWE because you're not the only person that I've heard this from. I've heard this from another person that has a personal relationship with Colby Covington. I mean, look, you have the president's family showing up to your fight, and you go in there and you put monumental records in the octagon against a monumental fighter. And it's just, you sit there, but you see what he's done. He has pissed off the world, and he is in full control over everyone. Most people don't see that. So my point of view, I know you, being media, you watch media, you sit there and do that. Kamaru Usman, I thought he did exceptionally well at the desk with Karen Bryant and Rashad Evans on the ESPN desk. Were you able to watch that?
I didn't watch the post fight, but they brought him in a bit for commentary and the in between stuff. And yeah, I thought he did fine, but I also seen him on Titan Fighting when I heard him commentating. He does a really good job on that.
Yeah.
So I think he's had practice and some reps.
Yeah, he's had his reps, he had his stuff, and when he came to the time, it was great. But how Colby Covington owns Kamaru Usman. Colby Covington wins his fight. He gets there on the desk. For some reason, they have Kamara on one side,
Yeah.
Colby on the other, Karen Bryant, Rashad Evans, and a bunch of security there. And if you see, Colby Covington is very well spoken when it comes down to his conversations. He knows what he's saying. He's putting it out there. He's doing things to stir the pot. He's trying to do this gimmick he's creating. But when he talks trash, you could tell he knows how to constantly piss somebody off.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you watched how he got Kamaru Usman so mad during that meeting they had up there on the post-fight show, he literally, Kamaru would not stop. He wouldn't be like, he sat there and it wasn't like, this, that, and the other. Okay, you just won your fight. You see there, okay, you want to fight me? We could do that there. What are your taxes? When you're looking, we can fight someone. Okay, I get you. Instead of trying to be calm and be professional so you can end up getting your spot and seal the deal to where you could be a commentator, he lost it.
Yeah.
Screaming, getting mad. And Colby Covington's not getting paid to stay up there. They asked him to get up there,
Yeah.
He's going to be up there because he won his fight regardless. And he can say whatever he wants. He can do everything. And he just constantly repeated himself because he knew that Kamara was getting mad. And now Kamara is going to come at him in this fight, in my point of view, the same way Jose Aldo did to Conor McGregor. He's going in there with a head full of hatred, and it's not going to be a clear thought. And that's where I think Covington's going to come out and be the solid fighter and come out and have more power and control when it comes down to it.
I'm going to remember this conversation because I'm going to cite it when I break down this matchup when it happens on my podcast. Because you're right, regardless of who I end up picking on this one, I think that there are some arguments that people were saying, whether you like him or not, Colby or not, were like, you know what, I don't know if I'm going to pick him, I don't know if I like him, but I think he's got a better chance after seeing what I did to Robbie. And you have other people going, I'm not any more convinced after, despite the Robbie performance. I still think Kamaru owns him on paper. He's the better wrestler. Kamaru doesn't show that he can get tired. He's not a knockout puncher like a Woodley, but he's got more power than Covington if we're doing the eye test, So a lot of people are still, discounting his chances, and I believe Covington opened as 2.5 to almost close to 3-1 underdog, which was kind of surprising, even though I agree with Usman being favored. But now with what you said, that's a very good point. I feel like that fight could be muddy because, maybe you can give Kamaru Usman the check boxes, but is Usman good enough to dominate and apply that against Covington? Maybe Covington's not good enough or maybe Usman's good enough to prevent him from being Robbie Lawler, like we just saw Robbie Lawler do. I don't think Covington's going to do that to Usman, right? But at the same time, what happens when he can't do it back? Because even though this guy might not be good enough to do this, he still has good enough wrestling to stop you from doing that, if that makes sense, which kind of muddies it up. You enter the emotion thing. He's fighting emotional. Maybe you do get tired, right? Because that makes you more tired too, right?
Adrenaline spike, everything. You're not clear on what you're doing. That whole training, you're foggy, you're cloudy, you make mistakes, you do things that you probably shouldn't. This is the thing is like, the way I look at it is that, look, Kamaru does great, but Kamaru, I don't see him standing up striking. Yeah, he looked good against Rafael dos Anjos, but let's be honest, everybody saw, what Covington did.
Yeah.
Covington put him down. Covington beat the crap out of him.
Different style.
Damian Maia, the same thing. He took it to Damian Maia and literally, this is going to get there. Watch this. Covington goes to Damian Maia and bloodies him within 3 rounds.
Right.
Dominates him.
Yeah.
It was more like when we talk about dominating performance to give you a title fight, that's what Dana looks for. Dude, he dominated a guy that we haven't seen get dominated before in a long time.
And Damian Maia could have, and not to take anything away from Kamaru, but Damian Maia could have, not only did Kamaru not beat him as impressively, he might not have beat him at all if the ref doesn't separate him in that first round. That really pissed me off. You know what I'm talking about,
That's
right?
exactly what I was bringing up.
That overhook position, I mean, and that pisses me off because not only if you know what you're talking about, it's such a crucial position to fight for the back.
Yeah.
But if you go back and watch Damian Maia, one of his only TKO wins against Dong Yun Kim, the judo player. He's a judo player, so he's got a good base. He stuffs the shot, secures his overhook, and he's deciding how am I going to separate, or maybe do I toss him? He's deciding what he's going to do. Same position. Maia just trips him forward and kind of makes him land with his overhook here and breaks his rib, right? And that's how he gets the stop. Because it's such a precarious position. Like, there are so many ways that could have ended right there, and that ref separate. And I hate being revisionist history. I don't want to take credit from the fighter, especially a champion like Usman, but God, that separation pissed me off.
That right there, that could have altered an entire. If we're in a parallel universe, we could have different possibilities.
And then how good does that Maia, even better does that Maia win look for Covington now if that would happen too? It's like,
this is the thing, is Covington, when he goes in there and he fights these guys, he makes these high-level fighters, these high-level grapplers, look like they're not able to perform in the way they do it. There's something that he has on his body, what he has in his mindset that he has when he steps in that octagon, that aura, that persona when he's in there, that these fighters lose themselves.
Cardio and durability, man. I think that's you know it. You have a bit of that yourself, sir. I mean, you know, I've seen you deep in those rounds and those dog fights. I don't want to be your opponent. I'm not saying because you're right here, but I don't want to be anyone's opponent when you're facing that guy where you give him your best and he's still there coming at you. That's got to be the worst feeling I imagine in a fight. Where you're just like, oh crap, this guy's still here.
Robbie Lawler this past weekend, he was dominated. He had no answer whatsoever. No answer whatsoever. And that's how I see it with Kamaru, man. Like, Kamaru he's not a striker. You know, he landed some solid strikes. But, dude, if you don't recall, and most people can't flash back to this, but Rafael dos Anjos rocked Kamaru. Whether Kamaru wants to see it, I was sitting right there. Rafael dos Anjos threw a straight right. Kamaru kind of stumbled back and he sat there, and his next move was the traditional "I'm scared, I'm gonna shoot."
Yeah.
And he shot right in and was able to get it down because Rafael, it's very difficult for him to stop the takedown when he gets the cage. And especially being, you know, when people are
small cage that fight too.
Yeah, it's a smaller one, and now we have a bigger one. You know, Kamaru looked good against you know, Tyron Woodley. Tyron wasn't able to perform the way he wanted to, and he did great. And he was able to dominate and go up there, but it wasn't, except for one point in the stand-up where I thought he would almost knock Tyron out. But when he was on top of it, it wasn't like he was sitting there putting on combinations and punches and putting on a lot of work. He was kind of laying there and being a blanket and, you know, putting a little bit of pepper punches. Whereas against the cage, if he's going to the ground, if he's doing this, Colby Covington is throwing combinations. He don't care if you get up because he has the cardio to go back down. Yeah. This is a great fight. This is a great to the pot.
I'm already excited for this fight now.
It is. It's just, you could break it down, but I think it comes down in this next coming bout when they do have it. It's the mentality.
We'll be watching that so much closer now. Great point.
It's the mentality. Watch how Kamaru talks, and then watch how Colby Covington talks. Colby is doing the same exact thing that Conor McGregor did with all these fighters. He's getting them emotional. You can't piss off Colby Covington. Why? Because he just created himself to be the gimmick of a dirtbag, right?
Right.
He's got countries that hate him.
Yeah.
He's got fighters. He's got athletes. He's got, you know,
media,
actors. Yeah. He's got everyone that does not like him.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not here nor there. I don't care what he says or does. I look at the mentality. Because if he goes to WWE, I bet you $1 billion when he goes over to WWE, he becomes the fan favorite. He becomes the fan. Because, well, let's be real. You know, fight fans, there's not a lot of them. As much as we're a growing sport, but there's not a lot of diehard fight fans, not a lot of that. But you got WWE fans. You have people that are, it's a huge population. Huge population. It's the NFL of the combat sport, if you want to put it at. They have huge fans, and you provide to the fans, which he does. He's a great fan guy. As crazy as it sounds, a great fan guy. He created his gimmick. I think it's going to do very well for him.
I think so too. Yeah, I do. I just I hope crazy fan breaks security and does anything nuts in this day and age. People don't seem to. That's a whole other conversation, I guess. But people don't seem to draw that the line of violence and where it starts and stops. But yeah, I agree with your point too. But it is kind of funny. I mean, even it's our job not to be unbiased, but even I see media members or veterans, even they're just like, screw this guy. They have a hard time holding it in. It works, man.
Man, you're either the most liked or the most hate. The American Gangster was the best at being the most hated, but there's another level that you take it at, and that's the only way that Colby Covington was going to get noticed. There's levels to this, and he just went completely far south. I was just like, but again, you're now the money fight. If honestly, no one, in all due respect, Kamaru, when you look at matchups, there's really nothing that anybody's like, oh, I really want to see that fight. Oh, I really want to see him. Who would you want to say? Oh, we want to see Jorge Masvidal. That'd be a nice fight. That'd be awesome. And then you sit there and talk about, he's already went through a long, train of fight, and he dominated a lot of these fighters. There's really no one that pops out there.
Yeah.
Maybe Ben Askren will get you there, but nothing gets you more riled up than hearing Colby Covington versus Kamaru Usman.
Yeah, it's gonna get a lot of people riled up, man. I don't know if I'm gonna enjoy the build up or look away, but I'm excited for the fight now, especially after talking to you about it, man. I'm really jacked for that one.
Check this out. Let's do this.
Okay.
What if they did Colby Covington versus Conor McGregor? Think of that one. Think of that media. Think of that hype. Think of that. If this was the day and age before the ESPN Plus, where you get pay-per-view points, where the fighters can negotiate contracts a little bit easier when it came to your want, Conor McGregor would be super high, and the want of people to see Colby Covington down.
Yes, yeah.
That would be like
you'd have Americans rooting for the Irish guy over the American guy.
Oh yeah, the world rooting for Conor McGregor. And that would be a first.
Hey man, he ain't the biggest welterweight Covington. He would be a 165er if they had that division. So
yeah,
it's
a fake matchup, but I love. My favorite thing is I love post-fight interviews. I love interviews. I love fighters that stand out amongst the rest.
Yeah.
I don't like the same traditional, oh, so Dan, you just went in there with a 3-2 combination. Explain to me what you did. Well, I went in there and we were training for this camp with this, the right straight and the hook. And I don't care.
Turn to the NBA at that point, the same answers, the same. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Although I will say for fantasy matchmaking, I still think I'd rather see that Masvidal and McGregor. I think that would be a nice mix.
That would be a great mix, exactly. Those two standing up, they're going to go at it. That's an actual fight. The one that I'm having is more of a kind of like a pep.
That's insane. No, it's just insane to think about the build-up, though. That would be insane.
It would be a great build-up, but Masvidal sleeping everyone in the middleweight or the welterweight division, and he's fought more title challengers than I want to say.
It's true.
He fought Damian Maia. He fought Wonder
Thompson.
Boy.
Yeah.
He fought Till. Who else did he fight? That was a title challenger. They went straight to the title.
Cowboy was a lightweight title challenger, but he finished him in Denver.
And so you have that, and he still hasn't got his chance. But I don't want to see him and Leon Edwards. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't care. Honestly, Leon.
I think it's a fun technical matchup. I'm not a drama guy, so I could give or take with the whole three-piece soda drama standpoint. But I think from a technical standpoint, it's the two most technical guys right there. I'm just oof.
Yeah.
That'd be a tough one to pick.
It would be, but I don't. This is the thing when you look at it and you have when you put Conor McGregor versus Jorge Masvidal, Conor McGregor will be able to throw power and could rock Jorge. Jorge could do the same. So we have an exciting potential KO or a straight banger for 5 rounds. But then you put it Leon Edwards. If you watch Leon Edwards, he really never put Rafael dos Anjos in any type of danger with his striking. He was great at putting the combinations together to get to close the distance, to get the takedown, to get on top. He did cut him open with a nice little beautifully placed elbow.
Yeah.
But it was great. But then you have, if you watch Jorge Masvidal, when he throws those combinations, those are impactful. they're movements. They make you move. They make you respect his power. And we're not talking about Leon Edwards as a high-level grappler like Damian Maia or, you know, even Ben Askren. You know, we didn't get a chance to see that matchup. But, you know, you have this stuff, and Jorge Masvidal is very good at defending shots and very good at stopping the takedown. So it's like, where do you see Leon win?
That's tough, man. I think the wrestling and grinding, but again, Masvidal's so good at counter wrestling and separating. Like Leon, like you said, he cut Rafael with those off the break elbows that he's really been getting good at. But Jorge Masvidal's been striking off the break and writing the book on that for forever now. I mean, so it's tough. I would probably pick Masvidal. Just off the top of my head, I imagine he'd be favored too for the public and maybe even some odd makers money. But Leon Edwards, it's just tough, man. He needs the right matchup. He needs that breakout performance. But he's one of those guys that's on that streak, and I don't think he's appreciated enough. But he just needs that. He needs that breakout performance. And but I can see why you wouldn't want to see that fight, though. Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, I give Leon one more fight in the top 5. Let him earn his spot. Again, if you look at Jorge Masvidal, he's fought everyone that's fought him got the title.
Dude, no joke.
So he was the gatekeeper at one point in time.
The Damian Maia spot.
You know, and
he even got a title shot at least.
Yeah, he did after an 9-fight win streak, and I'd like to see that, but you know, forget that. I want to see him fight for the title. It won't happen. Conor, if you're ever gonna come back, if you want to, I love it. By the way, timeout. I'm sorry. I just listened to a deal. I thought, and this has been in my head the entire time, talking about Conor McGregor, and Jorge Masvidal did exactly what I thought you should do. Jorge Masvidal didn't call out Conor. All right? And then when I look at it like this, you talk about all these fighters, let me fight Conor McGregor, blah, 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 Conor McGregor, I want Conor McGregor money, I want this. He's like, bro, he's like, Conor McGregor made his money. He's like, I don't want to. He's like, if he wants to fight, it's cool. You want to stand up and make it a silent fight, that's cool. We can go out. He goes, but honestly, I don't care to fight him. Like, I respect the guy. Yeah. He got his money. He's out. That's fine. He don't need to fight. And it's like you're playing the deal of being the most interesting one because you're not following the wave. You're standing up above the rest. And that's what I've been waiting for. That's why now I want that Conor McGregor fight for him because
I'm with you there. Yeah.
He wasn't begging for it. Like every fighter in the middle or the welterweight, the 55 are just begging for it. He's like playing it cool, like, yeah, man, it's whatever. Give him the stuff. So
yeah, man, no, I agree. I like that too. I like that approach. We'll see. I mean, it's really quiet on that front, so I don't even want to say anything until they finally announce McGregor the next fight, whenever that is. So
we got to figure it all out.
Yes, sir.
Well, that was a good little talk, man. I appreciate coming in here at the UFC headquarters. Coffee Talk, fighter and the experienced fan. I love it, man. Do you want to give a little shout out? Tell them where they can find you.
For sure, I just want to thank you, man, for having me on. This was awesome. Again, I wish more fighters and stuff like that, especially ones that can offer stuff like yourself. I know you're still doing stuff with Contender Series, but even last year you were doing those previews and coming in on more with us. So thanks for that. And yeah, if you want to find me, I do my articles over at MMAJunkie.com. You can actually listen to my podcast, the Protect Your Neck podcast, on iTunes and most places, podcast platforms. It's free. I usually break down the fights on like Thursday or so before. And even though there's not many off weeks, I also try to do top 5 episodes. We'll get you on for either a breakdown or a top 5 show sometime. But
I'm in for it.
That's where you can find me.
All right, guys. Follow the man over here, the guy with 2 first names, Dan Tom.
At Dan Tom MMA.
Thank you, brother.
Oh, it was